The space station hung in orbit like a massive wheel, spinning slowly against the darkness. Inside its metal corridors, beings from 100 different worlds walked together. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few were just clouds of gas held together by energy fields. This was Station Kepler 7, the meeting place where different species came to talk and make deals. Commander Zarthok walked through the crowded hallway with heavy steps. He stood 8 feet tall, and his body was covered in hard red scales that looked like armor. He had 4 powerful arms, each one strong enough to bend steel bars. His yellow eyes scanned the crowd, and most beings stepped aside when they saw him coming. They knew who he was. Everyone in the galaxy knew who he was. For 300 cycles, which was about 300 years in human time, Zarthok had been the supreme battle champion of the Galactic Empire. He had fought on 47 different worlds. He had defeated warriors from every major species. The rock-skinned Bruthar who could survive in volcanoes. The floating Aryans who moved faster than sound. The massive Gorath whose punches could crack stone walls. All of them had fallen before him. Zarthok had never lost a single fight. Not one. His people, the Kronoth, were born warriors. They lived for battle. Their children learned to fight before they learned to walk. And Zarthok was the best of them all. Today, he was here for the humans. These new creatures had just joined the Galactic Empire 20 years ago. 20 years was nothing in galactic time. Most species needed hundreds or thousands of years before they were ready to travel between stars. But humans had done it fast, maybe too fast. Zarthok wanted to know what these beings were made of. He had seen pictures of humans before. They looked weak. They had soft pink skin with no scales or fur to protect them. They had only 2 arms, not 4 or 6 like proper warriors. They were small, much smaller than him. Their teeth were flat and useless. They had no claws, no natural weapons at all. How did such fragile things survive long enough to build spaceships? The commander reached the diplomatic hall where the meetings were held. Inside, representatives from different worlds sat around a large circular table. The humans sat on the far side. Zarthok studied them carefully. There were 5 of them. 3 men and 2 women, all wearing dark blue uniforms with strange symbols on them. One of the women stood up when she saw him. She had gray hair and smile lines around her eyes. She looked old for a human, maybe 50 or 60 years. Her name was Karen Hughes, and she was their ambassador. Commander Zarthok, she said, in perfect galactic standard, the language everyone used for trade and diplomacy. It's an honor to meet you. We've heard many stories about your battles. Zarthok's mandibles clicked together, which was how his people laughed. Stories are for children. I prefer to deal in facts. And the fact is that your species is new here. You don't know your place yet. The other beings in the room grew quiet. Some looked uncomfortable. Others leaned forward with interest. They all knew what was coming next. According to the ancient laws of the Empire, Zarthok continued, I have the right to challenge your finest warrior to single combat. This is not meant to harm or insult. It is simply tradition. Every new species must prove their worth. Ambassador Hughes nodded slowly. She didn't look surprised or angry. We understand your traditions, Commander. We accept your challenge. She turned and gestured to one of the men sitting at the table. He stood up and walked over to stand beside her. This man looked ordinary, even by human standards. He was maybe 6 feet tall with light brown hair cut short. His face was tanned like he spent time in the sun. He had a straight nose and calm blue eyes. He wore the same uniform as the others but moved differently, like every step was carefully measured. This is Jake Morrison, the ambassador said. He represents humanity in your challenge. Zarthok looked down at Jake. The human looked up at him. For a long moment, neither spoke. The commander expected to see fear in those blue eyes. Every warrior he had ever faced showed some fear when they first saw him. Even the bravest ones couldn't hide that tiny flicker of doubt. But Jake's eyes showed nothing except quiet attention. He was studying Zarthok the way someone might study a puzzle they wanted to solve. There was no fear, no anger, no pride or ego, just calm, patient observation. You are their champion? Zarthok asked. You. I am, Jake said simply. His voice was steady and low. I have killed beings twice your size. I have fought creatures that breathe fire and spit acid. What makes you think you can stand against me? Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I don't think anything. I know what I can do. You'll find out soon enough. It wasn't a boast. It wasn't a threat. It was just a statement of fact, delivered in that same calm voice. Something about it made Zarthok feel strange. He had heard countless warriors brag before fights. He had heard them make threats and promises. But this quiet certainty was something new. The arena will be prepared within the hour, Zarthok said. The rules are simple. No weapons, no armor, no outside help. We fight until one of us yields or cannot continue. Do you understand? I understand, Jake said. Good. I will see you in the arena, human. Try not to embarrass your species too badly. Zarthok turned and walked away, his heavy footsteps echoing in the hall. Behind him, he heard the ambassador talking quietly to Jake. He heard the other humans gathering around their champion. He didn't look back. As he walked toward the arena level, Zarthok thought about the fight ahead. It would be quick, he decided. The human was calm now, but that would change when the fighting started. When he felt Zarthok's strength, when he realized how outmatched he was, that calm would break. They always broke. The arena was located on the lower deck of the station, in a large circular room with high walls and bright lights overhead. Seats rose up in rows all around the fighting floor, and those seats were packed with beings from across the Empire. Word had spread fast about the challenge. Everyone wanted to see the great Commander Zarthok fight the human champion. Most of them had come to watch the humans learn their place. A few had come hoping to see something surprising. None of them expected what was about to happen. The fighting floor was smooth metal, 40 feet across with clear boundaries marked in glowing blue lines. Medical teams waited on both sides, ready to help whoever got hurt. Zarthok stood in his corner, rolling his shoulders and flexing all four arms. His red scales caught the light and shone like polished rubies. On the opposite side, Jake stood quietly with his hands at his sides. He had removed his uniform jacket and wore only a simple black shirt and pants. His feet were bare, as were Zarthok's. The human was doing something strange. He was breathing slowly, in through his nose and out through his mouth, his eyes half closed like he was meditating. The referee, a floating Aryan whose body glowed with soft purple light, moved to the center of the arena. Fighters, approach! The referee's voice rang out clearly. Zarthok walked forward with heavy, confident steps. Jake moved lightly, almost gliding across the floor. They stopped 5 feet apart, and the size difference was dramatic. The commander towered over the human by more than 2 feet. The rules are known to both of you, the referee said. This combat continues until one yields or is unable to continue. Medical scan shows both fighters are healthy. Are you both ready? Ready? Zarthok said, his voice booming. Ready, Jake said quietly. Then begin. The referee shot upward out of the way. The crowd leaned forward, and Zarthok attacked. He launched his signature opening move, the 4-point strike that had started every one of his victories. His lower 2 arms swept in from the sides at knee height, while his upper 2 arms came straight down from above. It was a move designed to overwhelm opponents, giving them no place to dodge and no way to block everything at once. Jake moved. It wasn't a jump or a roll or a dive. He simply shifted his weight and turned his body, and suddenly he wasn't where the strikes were going. All 4 of Zarthok's arms hit nothing but air. The human had slipped through a gap that seemed too small to exist. Before Zarthok could pull his arms back, Jake's elbow smashed into the joint of the commander's lower left arm. The impact was precise and hard. Pain shot up Zarthok's arm, sharp and shocking. In 300 cycles of fighting, no one had ever hit him first. No one had ever touched him in the opening move. The crowd's cheering stuttered and died into confused silence. Zarthok roared with anger and surprise. He spun and lunged at Jake with all 4 arms reaching to grab and crush. The human should have been caught. There was no room to escape, but Jake stepped forward into the lunge instead of away from it. He used Zarthok's own momentum against him, somehow getting under the arms and past them. As the commander stumbled forward, Jake's fist drove into the side of his knee. More pain. Different this time, a deep ache that made that leg wobble. Zarthok caught his balance and turned again. He was angry now, angrier than he had been in years. This tiny human was making him look foolish. He attacked again, using all his speed and power. His forearms worked together like they had 1,000 times before, punching and grabbing and striking in combinations that had defeated the greatest warriors in the galaxy. But Jake wasn't there. The human moved like water, flowing around the strikes, always in the spaces between the attacks. And every few seconds Jake would strike back, always hitting joints, always hitting nerves, always in places that hurt. "Stand still and fight," Zarthok shouted. "I am fighting," Jake replied calmly. He wasn't even breathing hard yet. "You're just used to opponents who fight your way." The words hit harder than the strikes. Zarthok realized Jake was right. Every warrior he had ever fought tried to match his strength with their own strength. They blocked his punches with blocks. They tried to overpower him. They fought the way warriors were supposed to fight, with honor and direct confrontation. Jake was doing something different. He wasn't trying to be stronger. He was being smarter. He was turning Zarthok's own size and power into disadvantages. Every time the commander threw a big strike, he left himself open for a split second. And Jake was always there in that split second, hitting and moving away before Zarthok could respond. The commander changed his strategy. He slowed down, fought more carefully, used his reach to keep Jake at a distance. It worked better. He managed to land a solid punch to Jake's shoulder. The human grunted and stepped back. Zarthok felt satisfaction. The human could be hit. He could be hurt. But Jake's expression didn't change. He rolled his shoulder, testing it, then came forward again with the same calm focus. Zarthok hit him again, this time catching his ribs. He heard the human's breath catch, definitely hurt. But Jake kept coming. "Why don't you fall?" Zarthok asked, genuinely confused. "I'm hitting you. You should be weakening." "Pain is just information," Jake said. He ducked under a swing and delivered 3 quick strikes to Zarthok's midsection. "It tells me I'm damaged, but it doesn't stop me from fighting." They exchanged blows for several more minutes. Zarthok landed more hits. The human's lip was bleeding, and he was moving a bit stiffly on one side. But he never slowed down. He never hesitated. He just kept coming, kept striking, kept moving with that same patient, focused intensity. And Zarthok was getting tired. It was a strange feeling. His arms felt heavy. His breathing was coming harder. His muscles were burning in a way they never had before. He had never fought for more than 5 or 6 minutes. Every other opponent had gone down quickly. But it had been almost 15 minutes now, and Jake was still fighting. More than that, Jake seemed to be getting stronger as the fight went on. His strikes were landing more often. His movements were sharper. It was like the human had been studying Zarthok's patterns during the fight and was now using that knowledge against him. "How?" Zarthok gasped. "How are you still standing?" Jake moved inside the commander's guard and delivered a combination of strikes that Zarthok's tired arms couldn't block. Each one hit nerves and pressure points with surgical accuracy. "Because I've trained to fight when I'm tired," Jake said. "I've trained to fight when I'm hurt. I've trained to keep going when everything tells me to stop." Zarthok tried to grab him, tried to use his superior strength to end this. He caught Jake's arm in one hand and his shoulder in another. Got him. He could break these limbs easily. But Jake twisted in a way that seemed impossible, rotating his body and using Zarthok's own grip as leverage. Suddenly, the commander's arms were twisted in directions they weren't meant to go. He had to let go or risk injuring himself. Before he could recover, Jake moved behind him. The human's arm wrapped around Zarthok's throat. It wasn't a full choke, but it was close. The commander could breathe, but barely. He reached back with his 3 free arms, trying to pull Jake off. But every movement seemed to make the hold tighter. His vision started to blur at the edges. Then, suddenly, Jake let go and stepped back. Zarthok climbed slowly to his feet, his chest heaving with each breath. Around them, the crowd sat in stunned silence. This was not how these fights were supposed to go. The great commander should have won in the first minute. Instead, he was on his knees while the human stood calm and ready. The commander's mind raced as he tried to understand what was happening. He had fought for 300 cycles. He had studied every fighting style in the known galaxy. He had trained since childhood in the ways of combat. But nothing in his experience had prepared him for this. Jake didn't fight like a warrior. Warriors were proud. They showed off their strength. They wanted everyone to see their power. But Jake fought like something else. He fought like someone whose only goal was to win, no matter how it looked. He fought like survival was more important than honor. "You let me go," Zarthok said, trying to buy time to recover. "Why?" "Because I want you to understand something," Jake replied. His breathing was controlled, steady. "This isn't about me beating you. This is about showing you who humans are." "I know who humans are," Zarthok said. "You are weak. Your bodies are soft. You have no natural weapons. You should not be here." "You're right," Jake said, and that surprised the commander. "We are weak compared to most species. We're not as strong as you. We can't breathe fire or phase through walls. We don't have armor built into our skin, but we have something else." "What?" "We don't quit." Jake moved forward again, and Zarthok forced himself to focus. He was tired, but he was still the champion. He still had strength left. He changed his approach again, fighting more defensively. He used his forearms to create a wall of defense, protecting his body while looking for openings to strike. It worked better than before. He managed to land a solid hit to Jake's jaw. The human's head snapped to the side, and blood sprayed from his mouth. Another hit caught Jake in the ribs, in the same place Zarthok had hit before. He heard something crack. Maybe a rib breaking. Good. The human was injured now. He would have to slow down, have to protect that side. Zarthok pressed his advantage, forcing Jake to defend more and attack less. But something was wrong. Jake's expression still hadn't changed. His eyes still held that same calm focus. He was hurt. Zarthok could see that clearly. The human's breathing was different now, more careful. He was protecting his injured side. But he wasn't stopping. He wasn't slowing down. If anything, he seemed more focused than before. Zarthok had fought beings who could ignore pain through meditation or chemical enhancement. But this was different. Jake wasn't ignoring the pain. He was acknowledging it and choosing to keep fighting anyway. The commander threw a powerful combination, using all four arms in a pattern that had never failed him. Jake blocked two of the strikes, dodged one, and took the fourth hit on his shoulder. But as soon as that fourth strike landed, Jake moved inside Zarthok's guard and delivered an elbow strike to the commander's solar plexus. All the air rushed out of Zarthok's lungs. He stumbled backward, gasping. His vision darkened for a moment. When it cleared, Jake was right there, following up with more strikes. Each one was precise, controlled, designed to do maximum damage with minimum effort. Fear touched Zarthok's mind for the first time in his life. It was a small thing at first, just a whisper of doubt. He had always been the strongest. He had always been certain of victory. But now, with his arms feeling like lead weights and his body screaming for rest, he realized he might actually lose this fight. "You're scared," Jake said quietly. It wasn't a taunt. It was an observation. "I can see it in your eyes. You've never felt this before, have you?" Zarthok didn't answer. He couldn't. Speaking would take breath he needed for fighting. He attacked again, desperate now, throwing wild strikes that Jake avoided easily. The commander knew he was making mistakes, knew he was being sloppy, but he couldn't stop himself. The fear was growing, and with it came panic. Jake caught one of Zarthok's arms and twisted it behind his back. The commander tried to pull free, but his tired muscles couldn't break the hold. Jake's other hand pressed against the back of Zarthok's knee, and suddenly the commander was falling forward. He hit the metal floor hard, all four arms trying to catch himself. Before he could get up, Jake was on his back. The human's arm wrapped around Zarthok's throat again, this time from behind where the commander couldn't reach him. The hold was tight, professional, cutting off blood flow to the brain. Zarthok struggled, but Jake's legs were wrapped around his torso, anchoring him in place. "This is a rear-naked choke," Jake said calmly, as if he were teaching a class. "In about 10 seconds, you'll pass out. You have two choices. Tap out now, or wake up later wondering what happened." Zarthok's vision was going dark again. His forearms clawed at Jake's arm, but couldn't break the hold. His strength was gone, used up in the long fight. This soft, weak human had defeated him. No, this couldn't happen. He was the champion. He had never lost. He couldn't lose to this small being with no scales, no claws, no natural weapons. But the darkness was closing in fast. He could feel his consciousness slipping away. In a few more seconds, he would be unconscious on the floor of the arena, in front of thousands of beings. He would wake up defeated, humiliated, destroyed. Or he could tap out. He could acknowledge defeat with dignity. He could choose to end this on his own terms, rather than being choked unconscious like a helpless child. Zarthok's hand rose up and slapped the metal floor 3 times. The universal signal for surrender. The fight was over. Jake released him immediately and rolled away. The crowd erupted in noise. Some were cheering, others were shouting in disbelief. The referee flew down and declared Jake the winner. Medical teams rushed onto the floor to check both fighters. Zarthok lay on his back, staring up at the ceiling lights, his chest heaving. He had lost. After 300 cycles of victory, he had finally been defeated. And not by some mighty warrior with superior strength or size. He had been beaten by a human, a species that had been traveling in space for only 20 years. Jake appeared in his field of vision, extending a hand to help him up. Zarthok stared at that hand for a long moment. Custom dictated that he should refuse it, should get up on his own to maintain what little dignity he had left. But something had changed inside him during that fight. He took Jake's hand and let the human help him to his feet. The crowd's noise doubled in volume. A champion accepting help from the one who defeated him was unheard of. "Good fight," Jake said simply. "How?" Zarthok asked. His voice was rough, his throat sore from the choke. "How did you defeat me?" "I didn't defeat you with strength," Jake said. "I defeated you with time. You're used to quick fights where your power wins in the first few minutes. But humans evolved as endurance hunters. We chase our prey until it collapses from exhaustion. It's what we do. We outlast." Zarthok looked at Jake's battered face, at the blood and bruises. "You're hurt." "Of course I am. You hit hard." But being hurt and being beaten are different things. Jack the medical bay was quiet except for the soft hum of healing equipment. Zarthok lay on a bed designed for his species, his forearms resting at his sides while scanners moved over his body. The doctors said nothing was broken, nothing permanently damaged. His body would heal in a few days. His pride would take much longer. Jake sat on a chair across the room, his own injuries being treated by a medical drone. The small floating machine was putting something on the cut above his eye and wrapping his ribs where at least 2 of them had cracked. The human sat still and let it work, his face showing little reaction to what must have been painful treatment. The door opened and Ambassador Hughes came in. She looked at Jake first, her eyes scanning his injuries with concern. Then she looked at Zarthok. "Commander," she said politely, "may I speak with you both?" Zarthok gestured for her to continue. He didn't trust his voice yet. "That was quite a match," she said. "The station is buzzing with talk about it. Many species are reconsidering their views on humanity." "As they should," Zarthok managed to say. His throat was still sore. "I underestimated your champion. I underestimated your species." "Most people do," Ambassador Hughes said with a slight smile. "We look weak. We are weak compared to most species in the galaxy. But we've learned to turn that weakness into strength." "How?" Zarthok asked. "I need to understand. I have studied combat for 300 cycles. I thought I knew every way there was to fight. But what he did..." He gestured at Jake. "I have no name for it." Jake finished with the medical drone and stood up carefully, one hand pressed against his wrapped ribs. "We call it being human," he said. "But if you want a technical answer, it's a combination of things: strategy, endurance, pain tolerance, and stubbornness." "Explain," Zarthok said. It wasn't quite a command, but close. Jake walked over to the window that looked out into space. On Earth, our homeworld, we weren't the strongest animals. We weren't the fastest or the best armed. Lions were stronger, cheetahs were faster, bears had claws and teeth that could tear us apart. But we had one advantage. What advantage? We could run farther than anything else. We could track prey for days, weeks if necessary. We would chase animals until they literally couldn't move anymore from exhaustion. Then we would walk up and kill them with simple tools. That's how humans survived. Not by being strong, but by refusing to stop. Zarthok thought about this. You said pain tolerance. That is what surprised me most. I hurt you many times during our fight. I heard your rib break. But you kept coming. Pain is a signal, Jake said. It tells your brain that something is damaged. Most species treat it as a command to stop. Humans learn to treat it as information instead. We acknowledge the pain. We understand we're injured. But we can choose to keep going anyway. That sounds like madness? Maybe it is, Jake admitted. But it kept us alive. When a predator attacked our ancestors, they couldn't always run away. Sometimes they had to fight even when they were hurt, even when they were scared, because stopping meant death. So we evolved to push through pain, to ignore fear, to keep fighting when every instinct told us to quit. Ambassador Hughes moved closer. Our history is full of examples. Soldiers who fought for days without sleep. Explorers who crossed deserts and oceans despite starvation and disease. Scientists who tested dangerous theories on themselves. We have a saying on Earth. We fall down 7 times and stand up 8. I felt something during our fight, Zarthok said quietly. Something I have never felt before in 300 cycles of combat. What was that? Jake asked. Fear. The word came out like a confession. When you kept coming despite your injuries, when nothing I did could stop you, I realized I might actually lose. More than that, I realized I didn't know what you would do. I couldn't predict you. I couldn't control the situation. For the first time in my life, I felt genuinely afraid. Jake nodded slowly. Fear is a good thing. It means you were finally in a real fight. How is fear good? Zarthok demanded. Fear is weakness. Fear is the enemy of warriors. No, Jake said firmly. Fear is what keeps you alive. Fear is your body telling you that you're in danger and you need to be careful. The problem is that you've never faced real danger before. You've been so dominant, so superior to every opponent, that you've never had to overcome fear. You've never had to be truly brave. And humans feel this fear regularly? Every time we face something bigger than us. Every time we're outmatched or outnumbered. Every time we go into a fight, we might lose. The difference is that we've learned to act despite the fear. That's what courage really is. Not the absence of fear, but continuing to do what needs to be done even when you're afraid. Zarthok was silent for a long time, processing this. His entire worldview was built on the idea that he was superior, that his strength made him unbeatable. But Jake had shown him that true strength wasn't about never being challenged. It was about how you responded when you were challenged. What happens now? The commander finally asked. I have lost my title. I have been defeated in front of thousands of beings. My reputation is destroyed. Is it? Ambassador Hughes asked. Or is it transformed? You faced a new challenge, something you'd never experienced before. You fought well and hard. You showed courage by accepting the fight in the first place, and wisdom by tapping out when you needed to. Those are the actions of a true warrior, not a failure. My people will not see it that way. Then maybe your people need to learn a new way of seeing things, Jake said. He moved back to his chair and sat down carefully. On Earth, we have a saying. It's not about how many times you fall down. It's about how many times you get back up. You speak of getting back up as if it's simple. It's not simple. It's hard. It's maybe the hardest thing any warrior ever has to do. But it's necessary. Jake leaned forward slightly, his blue eyes serious. Commander, you've spent 300 cycles being unbeatable. That's impressive. But now you have something even more valuable. You have the opportunity to learn what it's like to lose and then find the strength to continue anyway. I don't know if I can. You can, Ambassador Hughes said. Because that's what warriors do. Real warriors. Not ones who've only known victory, but ones who've known defeat and found the courage to keep fighting. The door opened again and a Kronoth officer entered. He looked at Zarthok with barely concealed disgust. Commander, the Council wishes to speak with you about your defeat. They are considering removing you from your position. Zarthok felt his heart sink. To lose his position on top of everything else would be the final humiliation. But then he looked at Jake, at this small human, who had taken so much punishment and kept fighting anyway. Tell the Council I will speak with them, Zarthok said, his voice stronger now. But I will not apologize for what happened today. I fought with honor against a worthy opponent. If they wish to remove me for that, so be it. The officer looked surprised, but nodded and left. Jake smiled slightly. That's the spirit. I still don't understand how you did it, Zarthok said. The techniques you used, I have never seen them before. They're human martial arts, developed over thousands of years of humans fighting each other and learning what works. We didn't have claws or strength, so we learned to use leverage and positioning. We learned to make the other person's strength work against them. We learned to find the weak points in any defense. 3 days after the fight, Zarthok stood in a training room on the station's recreation level. His body had healed completely, thanks to advanced medical treatment. But the changes inside his mind were still fresh and uncomfortable. The Kronoth Council had spoken with him as threatened. They were displeased with his defeat, calling it a disgrace to their species. Several council members wanted to strip him of his rank and title. But the vote had been close, and in the end, they decided to simply remove his status as Supreme Battle Champion while allowing him to keep his military rank of Commander. It should have felt like a crushing defeat. Instead, Zarthok felt something like relief. The pressure of being undefeated for 300 cycles was gone. Now he could focus on learning, rather than defending a reputation. The training room door opened and Jake walked in, moving more easily than he had 3 days ago. His ribs were still taped. But human healing was surprisingly fast for such a fragile species. Ready to begin? Jake asked. I am not certain, Zarthok admitted. I have trained in combat since I was a juvenile, but you say I must forget everything I know. Not forget, adapt. Jake moved to the center of the room. Your training focused on overwhelming opponents with superior strength and size. That works fine when you're the biggest and strongest. But what happens when you face someone faster, or someone who fights in ways you don't expect? I lose, Zarthok said quietly. As I learned. Right, so now we teach you a different approach. Show me your fighting stance. Zarthok took his traditional stance, all forearms raised, legs spread wide for stability. It was a powerful position that gave him maximum reach and strength. Jake walked around him, studying the stance from different angles. What's the purpose of this stance? To present a strong defense while maintaining offensive capability with all four arms. And what's the weakness? Zarthok thought about it. I don't know. This stance has served me well for 300 cycles. It has no weakness against opponents who fight the same way you do. Big, strong, straightforward attacks. But watch. Jake moved suddenly, not attacking but simply shifting position to Zarthok's side. From here, half your arms can't reach me quickly. Your wide stance means you have to shift your weight to turn, which takes time. And your height means your balance point is high, making you easier to topple. But I am stronger than you. Even off balance, I can overpower most opponents. Against most opponents, yes. But humans don't fight most ways. Jake moved back to the center. We're going to teach your body a new way of moving. It will feel wrong at first. Your instincts will fight against it. But trust the process. Over the next several hours, Jake taught Zarthok basic concepts of human martial arts. How to move efficiently without wasting energy. How to use an opponent's strength against them through leverage and positioning. How to find weak points in any defense and exploit them. It was harder than any training Zarthok had ever done. His body wanted to move in the old patterns, the ones he had practiced for centuries. Every time Jake showed him a new technique, Zarthok's first instinct was to muscle through it, rather than use proper form. Stop thinking with your arms, Jake said, after Zarthok failed a technique for the 10th time. Think with your whole body. Combat isn't about having the strongest punch. It's about being in the right position at the right time. This is frustrating, Zarthok admitted. Good. Frustration means you're learning. If this was easy, it wouldn't be worth doing. They took a break and sat against the wall, both breathing heavily. Zarthok had 4 arms and was much larger, but Jake's teaching style was exhausting in a different way than combat. "Can I ask you something?" Zarthok said. "Of course." "During our fight, you had multiple opportunities to seriously injure or kill me. You could have broken my arms when you had them locked. You could have held that choke until I was unconscious or worse. Why didn't you?" Jake took a drink of water before answering. "Because that wasn't the point of the fight. I wasn't trying to destroy you. I was trying to teach you." "Teach me what?" "That humans aren't prey, that we deserve respect and a place in the galactic community, that we might look weak, but we're capable of standing against any species when we need to." Jake looked at Zarthok directly. "And maybe to teach you something about yourself." "What did you want me to learn about myself?" "That being unbeatable for 300 cycles might have made you a champion, but it also made you complacent. You stopped growing because you didn't need to. Now you have a choice. You can see this defeat as the end of your career, or you can see it as the beginning of becoming an even better warrior." Zarthok was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Before our fight, I thought humans were weak. I thought your soft bodies and lack of natural weapons made you inferior. But now I understand that humans are perhaps the most dangerous species in the galaxy precisely because you are weak." "Explain," Jake said, interested. "Because you are weak. You cannot rely on strength alone. You must be clever. You must be persistent. You must find every advantage and exploit it. A strong species becomes lazy because strength is enough. But a weak species that survives becomes cunning and relentless." Zarthok's mandibles clicked slowly. "Humans are not weak. You are efficient. There is a difference." Jake smiled. "I think you're starting to understand." They resumed training, and this time, Zarthok approached it differently. Instead of trying to force his body into the new techniques, he relaxed and let them flow more naturally. It still felt strange, still went against his every instinct, but he could begin to see how effective these methods could be. After another hour, Jake called a stop. "That's enough for today. Your body needs time to absorb what you've learned. We'll continue tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" Zarthok was surprised. "You're staying on the station?" "For a while. Ambassador Hughes thinks it would be good for galactic relations if I spent some time here. And besides, I want to see if you're serious about learning." "I am serious." "We'll see. Learning is easy when you're motivated by a defeat. The real test is whether you keep training when the motivation fades." As Jake prepared to leave, Zarthok said, "Thank you." "For what?" "For treating me with respect even after defeating me. Many warriors would have gloated or mocked. You did neither. Why would I? You're not my enemy. You were just someone who needed to learn something. Now you're someone I'm teaching. That's all." Jake paused at the door. "Besides, I know what it's like to lose. Every human does. We lose all the time. We just don't let it stop us." After Jake left, Zarthok stayed in the training room, practicing the techniques he had learned. They still felt awkward and wrong, but he forced himself to continue. His old ways had made him a champion. These new ways might make him something even better. Word spread through the station that the former champion was training with the human who had defeated him. Many species saw this as shameful. The Kronoth delegation was particularly angry about it, but Zarthok ignored them all. For 300 cycles, he had been the strongest warrior in the Galactic Empire. He had proven his superiority over every species and defended his title against all challengers. But in doing so, he had stopped growing. He had stopped learning. Jake Morrison, a human less than half his size, had shown him that there was still much to learn, and more importantly, had shown him that being defeated was not the end. It was just a new beginning. The former champion practiced late into the night, his 4 arms moving through patterns that felt foreign and strange. But with each repetition, they felt a little less wrong. And with each hour that passed, Zarthok felt something he hadn't felt in 6 weeks had passed since the fight that changed everything. Station Kepler 7 had settled back into its normal rhythm of diplomatic meetings and trade negotiations. But beneath that surface calm, something important had shifted. Zarthok stood in the observation deck, watching ships come and go from the docking ports. His reflection in the window showed a warrior who looked the same on the outside but was completely different on the inside. He had spent the last 6 weeks training with Jake every single day, learning not just fighting techniques but a whole new way of thinking about combat and strength. The training had been brutal. Jake pushed him harder than anyone had in centuries. More than that, the human challenged every assumption Zarthok had about fighting. When the commander relied on strength, Jake showed him technique. When he tried to use his size advantage, Jake taught him how easily that could be turned against him. Every lesson was a small defeat, another piece of his old pride crumbling away. But with each piece that fell, something new grew in its place. Understanding, wisdom, real skill rather than just raw power. "You're up early," Jake's voice came from behind him. The human walked up to stand beside him, 2 cups of coffee in his hands. He offered one to Zarthok. The commander took it carefully. Coffee was a human drink, bitter and strong. Zarthok had learned to tolerate it over the past weeks. "I was thinking about what you said yesterday, about fear. What about it?" "You said that fear is a tool, that humans use it to stay alert and alive. I am trying to understand this concept." Jake sipped his coffee and looked out at the stars. "Fear gets a bad reputation among warrior cultures. Everyone wants to be fearless. But fearless people do stupid things and get themselves killed. Fear is your brain's way of saying, 'Pay attention, this matters.' The trick is not to let it control you. But during our fight, my fear did control me. It made me panic and make mistakes. That's because it was the first time you'd felt it. You didn't know what to do with it, but now you're learning. In our training sessions, you face difficult situations every day. You're learning to feel uncomfortable and keep thinking clearly anyway." Zarthok thought about this. Jake was right. In the beginning, every training session had been overwhelming. Now, even when he was tired and frustrated, he could still focus and learn. The discomfort was becoming familiar, almost normal. "I received a message from my homeworld yesterday," Zarthok said. "The council has selected a new supreme battle champion, a warrior named Kreshitar. He is young and strong, and he has won 60 consecutive battles. How do you feel about that?" "I thought I would feel angry or jealous, but I don't. I feel relieved." Zarthok's mandibles clicked softly. For 300 cycles, that title was everything to me. It defined who I was. Now that it's gone, I realize how much pressure I was under to maintain it. I could never lose, never show weakness, never admit I didn't know something. And now? Now I can just learn. I can make mistakes in training, and it doesn't matter because no one is watching to judge me. I can admit when I don't understand something and ask questions. It's strange, but I think I'm happier now than I was as champion. Jake smiled slightly. That's growth. Real growth. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the ships. Then Zarthok said, "I want to ask you something, and I want an honest answer." "Okay. Why did you agree to teach me? I challenged your species. I called humans weak. I could have seriously injured you during our fight. Yet afterward, you offered to help me learn. Why?" Jake set down his coffee cup and considered the question carefully. "Because I saw something in you during that fight. Most warriors I've faced, when they start losing, they get angry or desperate or mean. They lash out trying to hurt me just because they're hurt. But you didn't do that. Even when you were scared and exhausted, you fought clean. You didn't try to cheat or break the rules. That told me you were someone worth helping. But I was your enemy. You were my opponent, not my enemy. There's a difference." Jake looked at Zarthok directly. Enemies want to destroy each other. Opponents just have different goals for a while. Once the fight was over, we didn't have to be opponents anymore. We could be something else. What are we now? I'd like to think we're friends, but that's up to you. Zarthok felt something warm in his chest. Friendship was not a concept his species valued much. Kronoth culture was built on competition and hierarchy. You had allies who were useful, and rivals who were obstacles. But friends? That was something different. "I would like that," he said. The observation deck door opened and Ambassador Hughes entered with 2 other humans and 3 members of other species. She saw Jake and Zarthok and walked over. "Good morning, gentlemen. Commander, I'm glad I found you. I wanted to discuss something." "What is it?" "The diplomatic summit is ending next week. Our delegation will be returning to Earth. Jake is scheduled to come with us." She paused. "However, we've received an unusual request. Several species have asked if Jake might be willing to stay longer and offer training to their warriors as well." Jake looked surprised. "Really? Which species?" "The Vortok, the Nithari, and even a few Kronath who saw your training sessions with the commander. They're impressed with your methods and want to learn." "I don't know," Jake said. "I'm a soldier, not a teacher." "You've been teaching me," Zarthok pointed out, "and you're very good at it." "That's different. I was teaching one person. They're talking about establishing a formal training program." Ambassador Hughes smiled. "Actually, the Galactic Council has made an official proposal. They want to create a new position, Combat Training Advisor to the Galactic Empire. It would be a civilian position with diplomatic status. You would travel to different worlds, teaching their warriors new techniques and promoting cultural exchange." "That's a huge job," Jake said. "It is, but you've already started it by teaching Commander Zarthok. Word has spread about what you're doing here. Many species are curious about human combat methods." She paused. "Obviously, this is your choice. No pressure from me or from Earth." Jake looked at Zarthok. "What do you think?" "I think you have a gift for teaching," the commander said honestly. "More than that, you teach in a way that respects the student. You don't make me feel inferior or stupid for not knowing something. You just show me a better way and let me learn at my own pace. But would it even work with other species? Our training has been one-on-one. I know your species, your body mechanics, your fighting style. How would I teach beings that are completely different?" "The same way you taught me," Zarthok said. "Not by forcing them to fight exactly like humans, but by showing them the principles behind human combat. Efficiency, adaptation, persistence. Those concepts work for any species." Jake thought about it for a long moment. Then he said, "Can I have some time to consider it?" "Of course," Ambassador Hughes said. "The formal offer won't come for another week anyway. Think it over." After she left, Zarthok and Jake returned to watching the ships in silence. Finally, Jake said, "If I did this, I'd need an assistant. Someone who knows galactic culture and can help me understand different species." "I could do that," Zarthok said immediately. "I have fought warriors from 47 worlds. I know their strengths and weaknesses, their fighting styles and traditions." "You'd give up your position in the Kronath military?" "I am no longer the champion. My position there is honorary at best. Here, working with you, I could actually do something meaningful." Zarthok's mandibles clicked in what was becoming a smile. "Besides, I am not finished learning. If you're going to be teaching others, I want to continue training with you. You know it won't be easy. Some species will resist. They'll see human methods as inferior or strange, and there will definitely be warriors who challenge us, trying to prove we're wrong." "Good," Zarthok said firmly. "Let them challenge. You've already defeated the supreme battle champion of the Galactic Empire. That should make them think twice. You're really okay with that? With me being known as the one who beat you?" "I'm more than okay with it. I'm proud of it." Zarthok turned to face Jake fully. "For 300 cycles, I was undefeated. That made me famous, but it also made me stagnant. You defeated me, yes. But more importantly, you showed me that I still had room to grow. That defeat was the best thing that ever happened to me." Jake smiled. "You know, when I accepted your challenge 6 weeks ago, I never imagined it would lead to this." "What did you imagine?" "Honestly, I thought I'd fight you, probably win, but get pretty beat up in the process, and that would be it. Humans would get some respect, we'd go home, end of story. And instead I made a friend, started a teaching career, and possibly changed how the entire galaxy thinks about combat." Jake shook his head in amazement. Life is weird sometimes. They spent the rest of the morning talking about what this new position might involve. If Jake accepted, they would travel together to different worlds. Zarthok would use his knowledge of galactic culture to help Jake understand each species they worked with. Jake would teach his methods while Zarthok helped adapt them to different body types and fighting styles. It was an exciting prospect, but also daunting. They would face resistance and skepticism. They would encounter warriors who saw them as threats to traditional ways. But they would also have the opportunity to change things for the better, to show the galaxy that strength came in many forms. 1 week later, Jake officially accepted the position of combat training advisor to the Galactic Empire. Zarthok resigned his honorary position in the Kronath military and signed on as Jake's cultural liaison and assistant trainer. Their first assignment was to the Vortok homeworld, where the crystalline warriors wanted to learn about human endurance training. After that, they would visit the Nethari, then back to the Kronath homeworld where young warriors had requested training despite their elders' disapproval. On the day they departed Station Kepler 7, Ambassador Hughes came to see them off. "You're doing important work," she told them. "Not just teaching combat, but building bridges between species." "We'll do our best," Jake promised. As their ship undocked and turned toward the stars, Zarthok looked at Jake and said, "I have been thinking about something you said during our fight." "What's that?" "You said humans don't quit. That persistence is what defines your species." Zarthok's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "I am beginning to understand that persistence is not just about refusing to fall down. It's about choosing to move forward even when the path is difficult." "That's exactly right," Jake said. "And that's what we're doing now, moving forward together." The former champion and the human warrior traveled into the unknown, carrying with them a simple but powerful message. Strength was not about being unbeatable. It was about being willing to learn, willing to grow, and willing to keep going no matter what challenges appeared. The strongest warrior of the Galactic Empire had challenged a human and learned fear for the first time. But that was just the beginning of his journey. Now he was learning something even more important. He was learning that true strength came from admitting you didn't know everything, from accepting help when you needed it, and from choosing to grow even when growth was painful and hard. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, as their ship jumped to faster-than-light speeds, both the former champion and the human warrior smiled. They had started as opponents, become teacher and student, and now they were friends embarking on an adventure that would change the galaxy forever. The age of humanity in the stars had truly begun. Entries. He felt like he was improving. He felt like he was growing. He felt like, for the first time in a very long time, he had something worth working toward. The strongest warrior of the Galactic Empire had learned fear. Now he was learning something even more valuable. He was learning humility. "Would you teach me?" The question came out before Zarthok really thought about it. "Would you teach me to fight as humans fight?" Jake glanced at Ambassador Hughes, who nodded slightly. Then he looked back at Zarthok. "If you truly want to learn, yes. But understand this. Learning to fight like a human means more than just learning techniques. It means changing how you think about combat, about strength, about what it means to be a warrior. Are you ready for that?" Zarthok thought about the fear he had felt during their fight. The uncertainty. The realization that he didn't know everything after all. For 300 cycles, he had been comfortable in his superiority. Now that comfort was gone, and in its place was something new. Something frightening, but also exciting. "I am ready," he said. He smiled slightly. "You hurt me. But you didn't beat me. There's a difference." The medical team tried to lead Zarthok away, but he waved them off. He needed to understand this. His entire life, his entire identity, was built on being the unbeatable champion. Now that identity was shattered, and he needed to know why. "Your species should not have survived," he said to Jake. "You're too weak, too vulnerable." "We survived because we refused to die," Jake said. "Our planet tried to kill us 1,000 different ways. Ice ages, diseases, predators, droughts, floods. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong, but we adapted. We persisted. We refused to quit. That's what makes us human." For the first time in 300 cycles, Zarthok truly understood that strength came in many forms. Zarthok fell to his knees, gasping for air. He looked up at the human, confused. Jake could have finished it. He could have choked the commander unconscious and won the fight. Why did he let go? Jake stood a few feet away, hands at his sides, waiting. "Get up," the human said quietly. "We're not finished." The commander reached his private preparation room and began his warm-up routine, stretching his forearms, testing his reflexes, running through the combat forms he had practiced for 3 centuries. His body was a perfect weapon, honed by thousands of hours of training and hundreds of real battles. He thought about Jake Morrison standing there with those calm blue eyes. So small, so weak, so confident. It would be interesting to see how long that confidence lasted. Zarthok guessed about 30 seconds after the fight began. He was wrong about many things that day, but he was especially wrong about that.